Dumb Husky and His White Cat Shizun is a BL novel. This is an audiobook made by fans for other fans. Disclaimer. Descriptive violence and triggers for sensitive content. If you don't like it, don't listen. Thank you. Remember, subscribe and click the bell to stay updated on all the new releases. Enjoy. Chapter 30. This venerable one does not want to eat tofu. Hey, did you guys hear? Elder Yuheng has violated the precepts and will be punished to kneel in the Yama Hall for the next 3 days. The next morning class, the disciples gathered at the good and evil platform to cultivate and meditate. After all, they were all young people in their teens and 20s, so they couldn't be as calm as water. When their master wasn't paying attention, they would start whispering to each other. The news of Chu Wanning's punishment quickly spread. The disciples who witnessed the caning yesterday were not stingy in sharing the gossip with others. Wow, why did you guys find out so late? Oh. So Elder Lucan took you guys up the mountain yesterday to pick the night dew? Alright then, you guys really missed out on a lot. Yesterday evening, in the Green Sky Hall, blood and flesh splattered everywhere. It was a horrible sight. Elder Yuheng was beaten more than 200 times. More than 200 times. The sticks hit the vitals. Merciless. Every time the disciple spoke, he would put on a particularly exaggerated expression. Accompanied by the exclamations of his junior brothers and sisters, there was no need to mention how proud they were. Do you guys know how to deal with more than 200 times? Even the burly man was beaten to death, let alone Elder Yuheng. At that time, he couldn't take it anymore and fainted. This made our young master crazy. He rushed up and fought with Elder Jaolu. No matter what, he wouldn't let anyone touch Elder Yuheng's finger. Ayo, that scene. His facial features were wrinkled and he winked at them. In the end, he stretched out a finger and waved it left and right. He concluded with 3 words. Tusk, tusk, tusk. Immediately, a junior sister's face turned pale. What? Elder Yuheng fainted? Young master and Elder Jaolu fought. No wonder I didn't see Elder Yuheng in the morning class today. How pitiful. What did he break? I heard that he beat the client out of anger. Such gossip would occasionally reach Shuemeng's ears. The young master of the peak of life and death had completely inherited his Shizun's temper. He was extremely irritable. Unfortunately, there was more than one person discussing this matter. Groups of people gathered on the good and evil stage were all muttering about Elder Yuheng should be punished and so on. This made Shuemeng feel extremely annoyed, but there was nothing he could do. On the other side, Shuemeng's forehead was bulging. On the other side, Amoran had not slept all night and was yawning non-stop. Shuemeng did not lose his temper. Instead, he turned to Amoran and said angrily, "The plan of the day depends on the morning. You dog, why are you so lazy so early in the morning? What does Shizun teach you on a daily basis?" Ah. Amoran yawned again with sleepy eyes. "Shuemeng, you're full. It's fine if Shizun scolds me, but who are you? I'm your cousin, so you better behave yourself when you talk to your cousin, don't be rude." Shuemeng said fiercely, "My cousin is a dog. If you want to be a dog, then be it." Amoran laughed, "You're so naughty, you don't even put your brother in your eyes. If Shizun finds out, how disappointed would he be? You still have the face to mention Shizun. Let me ask you, yesterday he wanted to go to the commandment court. Why didn't you stop him? Meng, he's Shizun. Late night Yuheng, Venerable Big Dipper, Why don't you stop him for me to see? Wanning was enraged. He pulled out his sword and raised his eyebrows. What the hell did you call me? Ran supported his chin and laughed. Meng, be good, sit down. Wanning flew into a rage. Ran, I'll kill you. Mei, who was sandwiched between the two of them, could not help but sigh as he held his forehead in silence. He tried his best to concentrate on his book. The sun and moon pot is filled with water, and the spirit core is formed. The way of heaven cannot be seen through, and life and death participate in business. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed, and Chu Wanning's reflection was over. According to the rules, he was now facing a 3-month suspension. During this period of time, he could not leave the summit of life and death. Moreover, he had to go to Granny Meng's hall to do odd jobs, clean the pillars of the Bridge of Helplessness, clean the steps in front of the mountain gate, and so on. Elder Jola was deeply worried. Elder Yuheng, to be honest, I think you should stop doing these things. You are, after all, a grandmaster of your generation. Doing these kinds of things like washing dishes and wiping the floor, is really a grievance. There was still half a sentence he could not finish. The main thing is that I really doubt whether you know how to sweep the floor, cook, or wash clothes. Chu Wanning did not doubt himself at all, and obediently went to Granny Meng's hall to report. Meng Po-tang, from the chief steward to the servants, was shocked to hear that Chu Wanning was going to be punished as a laborer. They all turned pale with fright, as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Chu Wanning's white clothes fluttered in the wind as he floated over. His handsome face was cold and calm, without any expression. If he was given a piece of auspicious cloud under his feet and a horsetail whisk on his arm, he would probably be no different from an immortal. Granny Meng's head steward felt ashamed and uneasy. He actually had to order such a handsome man to wash vegetables and cook. Chu Wanning, however, didn't have the self-awareness of being a handsome man. He walked into the kitchen and coldly glanced at everyone. Everyone couldn't help but take a step back. Chu Wanning went straight to the point. What should I do? The head steward bashfully pinched the hem of his clothes and thought for a while. Then he cautiously said, Elder, what do you think about washing vegetables? Chu Wanning said, all right. The head steward was greatly relieved. He originally thought that Chu Wanning would be unwilling to do such a thing as washing, brushing, and washing. However, the other tasks were either dirty and tiring, or required some skill. He was worried that Chu Wanning wouldn't be able to do them well. Since Chu Wanning agreed to wash the vegetables without any hesitation, he didn't have to worry about it anymore. As it turned out, the head steward was too naive. There was a clear stream in front of Granny Meng's hall. Chu Wanning carried a basket of green vegetables to the stream, rolled up his sleeves, and began to wash the vegetables. This area was under the jurisdiction of the 4 Stars sect's elders. Occasionally, disciples of the 4 Stars sect who were passing by saw that Chu Wanning was actually washing the vegetables were so frightened that they stuttered, unable to speak a complete sentence. They rubbed their eyes 3 or 4 times to make sure that they were not mistaken. Only then did they say in astonishment, You Elder Yuheng, good morning. Chu Wanning raised his eyes and said, Good morning. The disciples of the 4 Stars sect's elders shivered and fled. Chu Wanning couldn't be bothered to waste time with them. He continued to peel off the vegetables, rinse them, and throw them back into the basket. He washed them very carefully, breaking apart every single leaf and repeatedly brushing them from front to back. The result of this was it was already noon, and the basket of vegetables had yet to be washed. The waiter waited in the kitchen until his head was covered in sweat. He went back and forth in circles. What should we do? Why hasn't the elder returned yet? If he doesn't come back, then the vegetables won't come back. How should we cook the beef with vegetables? The steward looked at the son and said, "Forget it, don't wait. Let's change to the braised beef." When Chu Wanning returned, Granny Meng's beef had already come out of the pot and was stewed until it was tender and tasty. There was no need for vegetables at all. Chu Wanning frowned. He hugged his vegetables and was rather unhappy. He said coldly, "Why don't you want the vegetables and let me wash them instead?" The steward's hair stood on end. He wiped the cold sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief and said something that made him regret it. "Isn't this the same as hoping that the elder will personally make a pot of tofu stew with vegetables?" Chu Wanning was expressionless. He still hugged his vegetables and tilted his head as he pondered in silence. The steward hurriedly said, "If the elder isn't willing, then it doesn't matter." Before he could finish his sentence, Chu Wanning had already asked, "Where is the tofu stew?" "Elder Yuheng, do you know anything about cooking?" Chu Wanning said, "I'm not completely ignorant. I can give it a try." At noon that day, the disciples entered Granny Meng's hall as usual, laughing merrily. They found a place in groups of 3 or 4, and then went to the counter to get some vegetables and rice. At the pinnacle of life and death, the food had always been sumptuous, and today was no exception. The braised beef was plump and thin, the fish-flavored shredded pork was bright and rich, the crispy farmhouse meat was golden and crisp, and the chili fish meat was red and attractive. The disciples hurriedly snatched their favorite food and lined up all the way, asking the waiter to add a spoonful of sweet and sour pork ribs, pour some marinade on the rice, or add some chili oil. The fastest runners were always Elder Lukun's disciples. The little fellow at the front of the line had a big pimple on his nose, but he was still thinking about mapo tofu. He skillfully carried the wooden tray to the last cupboard, and without raising his eyes, he said, "Master, I want a bowl of tofu." The waiter's 10 fingers were slender and fair, and he handed him a plate full of tofu. However, it was not the familiar mapo tofu. Instead, it was a plate of strange food that was charred black, and the ingredients were indistinguishable. The disciple was shocked. "What is this?" "Boiled tofu with green vegetables." The crowd in Granny Meng's hall boomed, but the disciple did not pay attention to the person's voice. Instead, he angrily said, "Are you refining pills? Can this be called boiled tofu with green vegetables? I don't want it, you take it back." As he scolded, he glared at the waiter. As soon as he saw the person behind the cupboard, the disciple was so frightened that he screamed, and almost knocked the tray over. Elder Yuheng." "Yes." The disciple was on the verge of tears. "No, what am I doing? I didn't mean that just now. Since you don't want to eat it, then take it back," Chu Wanning said expressionlessly, "don't waste it." The disciple stiffly picked up the plate, and stiffly handed it over to Chu Wanning, and then left with his hands and feet. Not long after, everyone knew that the person standing in front of the last cupboard was Elder Yuheng. As a result, the originally lively Granny Meng's hall went silent in an instant. The disciples were like coquettish puppies. They lined up obediently and hurriedly served the dishes. They respectfully came to the last cupboard, and then they stumbled away after greeting Elder Yuheng. "Good day, Elder Yuheng." "Yes." "Good day, Elder Yuheng." "Good day." "Good day, Elder Yuheng." The disciples were extremely disciplined and cautious. As a result, Chu Wanning accepted every disciple's anxious greeting, but no one dared to try the vegetables and tofu in his pot. Slowly, the queue became shorter and shorter. The food in front of the other chefs was almost finished. Only Chu Wanning's pot was still full. The dishes in front of him were completely cold, but no one was interested in them. Chu Wanning's face was expressionless, but his heart was a little complicated. He had at least bathed the entire morning. At this moment, his 3 direct disciples arrived. Xuemeng was still wearing his silver blue light armor, and he looked very refreshed. He was a little excited, and he leaned over. Shizun. How are you? Does your wound still hurt? Chu Wanning was very calm, it doesn't hurt. Xuemeng, that's good, that's good. Chu Wanning glanced at him, and suddenly asked, do you eat tofu? End of the chapter. Stay tuned for more BL.